The Auburn Tigers, man, it is freezing in here.
Listen, put me in the parking lot, with bears, and I'll go out there and play. It don't matter.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day out at sea. But I am joined by Auburn message board legend Charlie 5. And man, the big news yesterday, and there's a lot of little nuggets all over the place as far as what this coaching staff is starting to put together, and we'll touch on that in a moment. But Grayson McCall, Coastal Carolina quarterback, has been dominant in the Sun Belt the last 3 seasons or so. He's been incredible. Also polarizing, great energy. There's just so much to like about his style. Yep, there's a mullet. Auburn people totally get behind that if that in theory happened. But there's more smoke tied to him entering the portal than any other quarterback that has entered the portal so far. And to me, that is exciting.
It's very exciting. I mean, I can't imagine a better quarterback for a Hugh Freeze system than Grayson McCall as far as like guys in the transfer portal. He loves to run. Completes pass. He doesn't just have a like off the charts arm strength, but like he is extremely accurate. He's always going to be around 70% or higher. His touchdown to interception ratio is insane. I think he's thrown less than 10 or something like that his whole career. I'll be honest, there was smoke last year that he may be looking at Auburn. And I don't know if it was the depth chart. I don't know what it was, if it was Harsin, whatever. But he just came out and he's like, I'm staying at Coastal, for another year. I think, it makes sense. It makes sense now that he would, go in. I feel like he needs one more good, solid year to cement himself as, maybe like a top 3 or 4 player in the draft in 2020. I guess it'd be the 2024 draft. I mean, I can't imagine a better quarterback. I can't imagine a better fit than Grayson McCall if it were to work out.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you, man. I'm there with you. So the energy behind that move would be pretty polarizing. Is there, let's say it's not necessarily Grayson McCall, but somebody of that caliber, right?
Sure.
How do you think that impacts Robbie Ashford?
So I thought about this a lot. I've actually thought about this a lot. Like I've been talking about the kid from NC State, guys that that are possibly going to be one and done scenarios. And I'm of the mindset that doesn't really, I feel like that doesn't really benefit Auburn a ton. But then you think about Robbie, and I've just heard Freeze say such glowing things about Robbie. He has no desire to move him positions. He wants him to play quarterback, but it's like, is Robbie 100% ready? And I think you can't, as high as the stakes are right now, I don't know that you can just 100%, if you're Hugh Freeze, go into next year with that being it. So if you can't, what better way than to have a guy that's only going to be here 1 year, who's got a wealth of experience that Robbie can rotate with, and they sort of play the same game, run hard, make plays with your feet. Yeah. If Grayson were to get injured, Robbie's right there. But just somebody that Robbie could, learn from if he can be patient. And I think that could end up being even like way better for Robbie than if he were to just be playing right away. I don't know. I may be overthinking it a little bit, but and because I really want the Grayson McCall thing to work, but I really like Robbie too. It's just like, man, do you just go into the season, how is the shoulder going to heal? What do you do? I mean, he had accuracy issues. Is that all?
He's in an interesting spot though, Charlie 5, because he transferred, right? He's a redshirt freshman.
He doesn't have the
I don't see it. Yeah, so he's already transferred. I don't see how he could be up for a grad transfer at this point. So I feel like he'd have to stay unless he just wants to sit out somewhere.
And he doesn't want to play any other position. Like, he wants to play quarterback. So, and I think that's where Hugh wants him. I think Hugh Freeze wants him there.
I do too.
So
I do too.
It's an interesting dynamic. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm higher on Robbie than a lot of people right now, which is weird because I wasn't going into the season, but he kind of won me over with some plays and how he handles himself most of the time. I still think he's an emotional player.
Yeah.
But you want a little bit of that in your quarterback, right? And so I think
that doesn't bother me as much as it does other people.
Sure. Yeah. I think
I want to win, and he does too.
Yeah, he's a dude that's going to fight for you, and you want that guy leading you. Grayson McCall's the same way, though, and so if Grayson McCall could pull that off, that would be that'd be wild. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with all of that. Charlie 5, I want to get your thoughts on the big coordinator hires that happened over the weekend. We'll touch on that in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks is the best place to get your meat buy and self going this holiday season. It's insane, the deal that they're running. Omaha Steaks has cut prices 50% site-wide to make you the gift-giving hero that you've always wanted to be. The holidays are here. Achieve gift-giving greatness when you give the gift of perfectly aged, tender, and delicious Omaha Steak. So all you have to do is go to omahasteaks.com. Use promo code Locked On. We bought this gift for somebody a year ago. He married my mother-in-law in the meantime, but we went up there and we actually cooked some of the steaks, and they're very good. They're very, very good. Highly recommend. So head over to omahasteaks.com. Use promo code Locked On. It's a great deal, folks. Be sure to check it out. omahasteaks.com. Use promo code Locked On. Our guest, Charlie 5, joining us. All right, so Philip Montgomery and then Coach Roberts leading the defense. Your big picture takeaway from both of these guys is what?
So I'm going to give you one word, and you're probably going to say what whenever I say it, because I'm going to unpack it though. Okay. The one word that jumped to me when I really sat back and thought about these two hires was recruiting. Okay. And you're probably thinking, those guys are not really known for recruiting, but you know who is?
Right.
You know who is? Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze came in saying he was thinking about, for the first time in his career, I got a chance now with coaches that are calling me. I can take a step back and I can do the things that I need to do to build this roster. And he's all like, from the time he's been here, he's been recruiting. From the time he's been here, he's been talking about building this roster. And what better way to do it than literally hire two former head coaches on both sides of the ball that can call plays, they can run their perspective sides of the ball, and Hugh can oversee, and then Hugh can put the focus on rebuilding this roster. That's the more and more I thought about the hires, the more I fall in love with them. You got Ron Roberts, who has an unbelievable defensive resume, unbelievable defensive coaching tree. And then you got Philip Montgomery, who, heck, he won 10 games at Tulsa. He's got experience calling plays with Art Briles, worked with some incredible quarterbacks. I mean, the more and more
Did he call plays for Art Briles?
I've seen articles where Art says, like, the very end of the Baylor run, I took a step back and was able to trust Philip Montgomery to call the plays 100%. I'll try to find the article and link it. So he worked with RG3 when they were lighting it up. I love it, man. I am a big proponent of recruiting, and the best recruiter on this whole staff is Hugh Freeze. And what he just did was put people in place to free himself up to be able to go recruit his you-know-what off. And he's been doing it, and he's going to continue to do it, and it fires me up.
So on tomorrow's show, be sure to come back for tomorrow's show, but I'm joined by Drake Toll. Recorded it this morning, actually. He hosts Locked On Baylor. Shocked, in disbelief. Baylor folks cannot believe he got this opportunity.
Oh, no.
They don't think he's that good.
They don't think he's that good.
Which I thought was interesting.
Well, that's how. I mean, it's always going to be. He's not good, but he had a top 10 scoring defense in the country last year. Oh, I'm sure Aranda was calling all the plays. That's what it was.
Yeah, that was kind of his footing, right? And be sure to listen tomorrow to the show because I want people's thoughts on it. But that was his footing, right? It's like it was Aranda's defense. It was Aranda's defense.
Okay.
And
Aranda's defense is Robert's defense. Roberts hired Aranda into coaching. So Aranda's defense is Robert's defense. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know where you go. Where do we go from here?
Now, he did love Philip Montgomery, 1L. Yeah. Philip Montgomery with 1L. He loved that move. He absolutely loves that move. So be sure to do that. But I don't. It is kind of weird. But both of these guys got fired and they kind of fell upwards because I think the Auburn OC job is probably a better job than the Tulsa head coaching job. I assume his pay will be more. I'm assuming that. But like you said, like 10 wins at Tulsa, like that's what else do you want from the guy?
Barry Odom just left. Barry Odom just left the SEC defensive coordinator position to be the head coach at Tulsa. So, I mean, maybe I don't know that that's necessarily. I think head coaching, regardless of where it is a step up. Is a step up from being a coordinator.
I got you.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't think it's. I get what you're saying. They were fired. Philip Montgomery was fired as a head coach. Okay, so head coach calling plays is two different things, and he probably found that was a lot harder to do than he anticipated. The Roberts situation is a lot different than just straight up saying he got fired, in my opinion. Jim Leonard is also in that coaching tree, and I think it was sort of a mutual parting of ways because, yes, you can go hire the younger version of me, basically, is what it is. And I think he's probably going to end up being the defensive coordinator at Baylor. I'm interested to hear his opinion. I've seen a lot of Baylor guys that were sort of questioning it. Maybe they thought if you had to get rid of a coordinator, you might be looking at getting rid of Grimes over Roberts because the defense has performed really well over the last several years. And, you know, some of the stuff the losses they've had, they haven't been able to, you know, maybe keep up with some of the high powered offenses. But I'm anxious to hear what he has to say.
Yeah. The whole Philip Montgomery run game expert paired with Hugh Freeze. How do you think that's going to match up logistically? Is that all in like game prep? Or do you think that happens on the sideline as well during games? Or do you think it all happens kind of in the film room before Saturdays roll around?
I think that's a pre-deal. I think that's something that happens maybe even before the season. Maybe that's how you get after it because Freeze, for the most part, as of late, has done better with, you know, having a power run game. But, you know, he was a guy that even at Ole Miss where did not have a lot of big time rushing numbers. There's a lot of passing, a lot of receiving to running backs out of the backfield. So I think that's something that you just kind of take and you mix together beforehand. I don't think it's going to be like, I'll call the run plays, you call the pass plays type thing. It's like, hey, let's see what you do here and how we can mix it together, and we'll just build a game plan around that. But yeah, you're right. That's one thing that Montgomery's known for is being able to run the ball physically out of those type of formations and things like that. So that's also very exciting.
Neither of these names were like super talked about.
Yeah.
Going into it. What do you think that is? Think that is Hugh didn't get his first few guys, or do you think we just missed on it?
So I think that we probably had it seemed pretty clear that, you know, Chris Kiffin was probably the number one defensive coordinator that he had targeted, that he wanted to have. And we maybe were waiting on to see how the Browns season would shake out. And then ultimately, I think he just didn't either asking too much money or didn't want to get back into college football. But I mean, Lindsey had his name out pretty early, and there were some people that threw it out early, but you were like, ugh, at the time you didn't want it because you had sexier names in mind. So I would say, I don't think he's probably was the first call, but I would imagine he was within the first few people that were talked to for sure. As far as Philip Montgomery goes, that one I never even had heard that name before up until 2 days.
No, I had to learn who he was.
Yeah, up until 2 days before it actually happened. So that was sort of out of the blue, but I don't know, like, how quick was he fired from Tulsa? I don't know when that whole thing went down. Is that something that arose after he was let go? Maybe it wasn't on the radar until after the season was over. Like, I don't know how that whole situation. I mean, he coached the whole year. I think he went 5-7. So was he he was fired? He couldn't have been fired more than a few days before he was hired. So I don't know. I don't know how that whole situation played out, but I know they've been talking for at least a week or so, a week plus. So they're able to keep stuff. Yeah. It is crazy how quiet they're able to keep these things. And then
it's awesome.
Names pop.
Yeah, all these hot boards. It's like, sometimes we're right. And I think we kind of knew the Hugh Freeze thing, right? And the Lane stuff, but the coordinators thing, that was pretty impressive. I'm more excited about the Montgomery hire at OC than I am the Roberts hire at DC. Just the more I look at this Montgomery guy, the more I'm like, dang, he's been a part of some pretty successful offenses. Been a key part of some really successful offenses with Heisman Trophy winners and the like. So I love that. I love what he did at Tulsa for the most part. Obviously, this past season warranted him getting fired, I guess. Little shocked of like the length of the leash at Tulsa, but it is what it is. I like it more than the Roberts hire. I just do. I think the Roberts hire is solid. It's not flashy. And a lot of the times these safe, solid hires end up working out. Just right now, I'm not getting a whole lot of an emotional reaction from it.
Sure. And I'm probably, if I had to pick one, I would say I probably feel the same way. Mostly because I just don't think I think we have a better chance to be decent on offense than we do on defense for next year for some reason. So it's like, but then again, I don't know what name. The only thing that would have made me more excited was if it was, a big recruiting name, and then what do you sacrifice from on, the X's and O's side? So I would probably feel the same. I probably feel the same way. I feel like Philip Montgomery brings a little bit of heat to the quarterback room. Should excite some kids. Maybe pull, like we saw, like I said, we saw Grayson McCall go in the portal shortly after, this hire was made, I guess within 24 hours after this hire was made. So, he had to, maybe there was something to that if he ends up at Auburn. But I'm with you there. I get it. I think we're going to end up really liking this dude, though. He just looks like an old, like, tough defensive,
no nonsense,
get after your butt kind of coordinator. Yeah.
Sure. All right. A lot of rumblings that maybe this recruiting class could end up being a top 15 recruiting class. Charlie 5 is going to tell us the steps where that needs to happen in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. You got to try their newest flavors: cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, coconut brownie topper. They also have white chocolate peppermint granola. It's Built's take on granola bar, so it's more filling and still insanely tasty. They also have candy cane brownie puff, Built Puffs. They're like biting into the universe's most delicious cloud, but it's all protein, very low in sugar, very low in calories, keeps you full longer, 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, and just 130 calories in most bars. So get 15% off your order right now by using the promo code LOCKEDON15, LOCKEDON15, LOCKEDON15 for 15% off. That is at built.com. Charlie 5, our guest, as he joins us every Charlie Tuesday. Hugh Freeze is kind of tweeting out the bat signal things, different like board games and pictures of him catching a fish and a lot of different things going on about all of that. Yeah, it was a nice fish. Good for him. But they're doing it. Like they're spending every second of their lives recruiting and focusing on talent acquisition. And it seems like kids are responding. So if they want to take this next step, right, get into the top 15, which I think we all would have thought was crazy a month ago that this was even a conversation. What do they have to do? What are some of the next steps in your mind that they have to do to achieve this?
Absolutely. Well, number one is just numbers. Your class is ranked low right now, honestly, sheerly based off of the class size. You have we have like 12 commits or something like that. 12 total commits. So number one, as you start to fill out your class, your rankings are going to go up just in general. Number two, you're going to have to pull off some flips. You're just going to have to. At this point in time, the amount of like uncommitted guys that are out there that you can go, get and turn into Auburn leans within a 3-week span. There's just not a ton of those. Now there are some, and there's some big ones. And if you hit them, and Hugh's going to have some in-homes with a couple of them, guys that have been to Auburn a ton of times, the Carver kids, you're going to shoot up big. But flips are going to be your big deal. You talked about the bat signals and stuff. I think they're trying to signal. Maybe we've got some behind the scenes that that are either on board or they're going to be on board. Things like that, and they're all, for the most part, the rumored names are all pretty highly thought of, highly ranked players. There's some top JUCO offensive linemen that are looking hard at Auburn that we think we can get. There's some very, very high rated DBs that Auburn feels really, really good about. So you got just sheer numbers.
State kid?
Yeah. Kay and Lee. That's one that I would,
he's
probably
incredible. His stuff is so good.
Yeah. I would probably keep my eyes on him. But like him, Tony Mitchell, can you flip a 5-star DB that's committed to Alabama? Was he here or was he not here? We don't, we don't know. There is a huge relationship there with Zac. You get that kid, you're gonna shoot up. Connor Liu was here this past weekend. The guy we flirted with for a while, and he ultimately we thought he was on the verge of committing. Ultimately went to Miami. He could be back in the fold. Like, that's a 4-star guy. Interior lineman who could possibly start next year. So they're numbers and flips and then closing. You just got to close. You got guys you've been talking to. You got guys that have been working with, the different coaches that remained on staff. You got a couple of guys in South Florida. You're trying to reel in your Langston Hughes guys. You got a couple of those dudes out there that if you can get. Keith Niebuhr posted it today. He said, "Hey, from what I'm hearing, top 15 is definitely in reach." So if Keith says it, then he's hearing even more than what we're hearing. So I think it's definitely in reach, and I think it would be probably one of the most incredible, recruiting feats that I believe I can remember if that were to happen.
Yeah, so, and it's like you look at next year, you look at the 24 class, and it's like, oh, Hugh has a whole year to work on that one. So that'd be the energy would be around this program. There's no question about it. Charlie 5, how can people find you, hear you, love you, all that good stuff, buddy?
Absolutely. Find me on Twitter at _Charlie_5. You can find me in the Locked On Auburn Discord like every single day. And then you can listen to me on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the Dad Bod Golf Pod.
You can find all of my written work at auburndaily.com. That'll be a little lighter than normal, but still Lance, Lindsay, and the guys will do a great job with all of that. And Locked On Auburn will be back tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.